It's hard to believe it's our September work session, and we're glad to have some good things to talk about today. We're going to talk about a proposal and potential partnership with the Division of Kentucky Fish and Wildlife at our reservoir property, possibly. We're going to have an update from Harold Hoskins and John Ward about our generator project. Jeff Mudrack is going to share information. It's been a marathon of updating our administrative policies. And we've also got some other information to share from J.R. Brandenburg and myself about some needed repairs at the museum that just came up. So we'll roll this out, and I'm going to ask Ben Robinson and Derek Beard to introduce themselves. They're here with us. And let me just kind of open the door about this potential partnership. With the original purpose of the reservoir property was, to hopefully have a second water source for Scott County. And through a long process that everybody's aware of, that did not become a reality. The permit was not something that was going to be approved by the Corps of Engineers. I have reached out as recently as a month ago to the Corps of Engineers and spoke on the phone and emailed back and forth, and nothing has changed in respect to the potential of getting a permit there in their eyes. So in my mind, and this has been on my mind for some time, that we have that property, and right now it's being used by the community. There's three groups that use that. There's a substantial horseback riding group that uses a significant portion for trail riding. There is a very organized mountain biking group that uses that as well, and they call it the Skull Buster Trails. If you drive down there and look in the parking lot on weekends, there will be cars from various states and different parts of Kentucky. It is used. And then we also have bow hunting and just recreational trail hiking out there as well. It's a beautiful spot. And one of the things that I want to make sure as we go forward is that any existing recreational opportunities that are there currently, that we can continue those opportunities. So in conversations with Fish and Wildlife, the potential and interest that they have had is having more land for wildlife management area, some similar to Veterans, that's on Rogers Gap. And to me, this would be a very appealing partnership, because we get the expertise of Fish and Wildlife and their management and their oversight and their partnership there. But at the same time, we could continue to have those existing opportunities for our community. So that's why it's very interesting to me. There's some things that have to kind of be ironed out, but I think that the potential exists for it to be a very positive partnership. In the conversations with Fish and Wildlife, the hope is this could possibly be a 2 or 3 year lease, and then at the end of that term, discussions possibly about Fish and Wildlife purchasing that. And my plan and hope would be that with the purchase, that the existing opportunities would be maintained with that purchase by Fish and Wildlife. It's something to look at. I think it's a great opportunity to partner with Fish and Wildlife and get their expertise and oversight and their management. That's what they do. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ben. And Ben and Derek, thank you all for coming. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us. Again, I'm Ben Robinson, and I am our Director of Wildlife for the Department of Fish and Wildlife. And with me is Derek Beard, and he's our Assistant Director. Derek oversees all of our public lands. So First of all, just happy to be here and talk about this unique opportunity. For us, we're definitely in the business of providing access for outdoor recreation, particularly hunting and fishing, and especially when you get into what we like to call the Golden Triangle part of the state. That northern Kentucky, Louisville, Lexington triangle there, where most of our people live, and where we have the smallest amount of public access. So this opportunity provides a really unique opportunity for us to get some more people out on the ground and enjoying outdoor recreation. With that, I'm happy to take any questions that you have. I've worked with Judge Covington and Mr. Culbertson there on drafting up a potential agreement that you may have seen. I'm not sure.
No, it's been shared.
Okay, and so happy to take any questions about that agreement or what our partnership might look like moving forward.
Maybe a question. My wife's an avid horse person, and I've ridden those trails down there several times, and she used to ride them a lot. And I know a lot of people do use them on the weekends. If you guys were to look at an agreement like this, would you try to still maintain the trails they've got down there, or who would be responsible for the upkeep of that, and then like parking and some of the stuff that goes along with the park, or
Sure.
with it now?
So I can answer them, Ben.
Okay.
In the agreement, we've spelled out that the current relationship would remain as is. The volunteers that maintain the trails would continue to do that. Fish and Wildlife would not have responsibility for maintaining or upkeep of those existing trails, and felt like that was the best way to continue right now in the lease. Now, Ben, if you
and
want.
you're spot on. I mean, that's how we handle other wildlife management areas. Because some of our areas, we have about 91 wildlife management areas across the state. Some allow horseback riding, some do not. But the ones that do, that's usually how we handle them, because we're not really in the business. Our funding model is not set up for trail maintenance like that. So while we're happy to continue allowing that use, the actual management and maintenance of the trails, we would not want to be responsible for. So we would rather have local groups and local clubs that are already on the area to take over some of that management.
And I don't know, it's been 2 months ago, JR and I, staff from Fish and Wildlife, Chad Wallace came as well. We went from one end to the other of the reservoir property. And I don't think, it's impressive. The trails that are existing, they're marked. They're, they come through and mow those. I think at least once or twice a year, and then, there's trail stewards on the mountain biking side as well that are designated, and they organize times just like the horseback riding groups do to do maintenance, cut back trees, brush, that kind of stuff.
Do you foresee having a shooting range at that area later on?
No, we don't. We're the veterans track off Rogers Gap. That's where our proposed shooting range is going in.
Okay. Would it also have gun season there?
So we have very limited gun hunting on veterans. The way we're proposing to run this one right now would be like a tract of our veterans WMA. That way it mimics the regulations that are already in place for veterans. So if we're doing that, veterans has limited gun hunting right now for deer. There is, Derek helped me out, but we have 2 quota hunts this year, November 5th and 6th, December 3rd and 4th, and a late season week-long muzzle loader, primitive weapons, just like what we do on veterans. So we would try to create that same framework there. So the way we handle our quota hunts at veterans, I think it's 50 people this year that apply in the month of September. Yes, through a lottery process. When you get selected, then you come out and you can hunt on that November 5th or 6th or December 3rd or 4th, whichever one you were drawn for. But we would propose that if you were drawn for veterans, you would also have access to the reservoir track as well.
You have crossbow and regular bow?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
The muzzle loader, is it just a couple days?
There's 2 days in, I think, the 3rd weekend of October. And then, don't quote me on this, but I think it's the 3rd week of December.
December 8th to the 13th, I believe.
Okay. And there's 1 week of muzzle loader in December.
Let me ask you this. Would it interfere with people horseback riding?
So what we've proposed is to have horseback riding running concurrently when there's archery, crossbow, things like that going. But when we have firearms, deer, to close the area down for horses, just for safety. We do that on other areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Horseback riding during late November. You're talking late November, December.
I think there is. Dr. Sutton's here, and I think he represents that group. And I welcome any comments that you have on that too.
Right now, I'm just kind of listening
Okay.
and let him finish.
Sure.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the only time under the current proposal that would be closed to horseback riding would be during deer season
Yeah.
or spring turkey season.
Spring turkey shotgun. That's
So those
correct.
would be the only two times.
So the muzzle loader, would that, because that was my understanding too, like in December, the short time, if it's November 5th and 6th and December 3rd and 4th, but for the muzzle loader, that extends it out. Would that be underneath that as well, the muzzle loader?
Muzzleloader right now, the late muzzleloader is open at Veterans WMA.
December 10th through the 18th.
December
You also
10th
have
through the,
youth opportunity as well.
yeah. And then can we talk about the spring turkey season where it would be?
So spring turkey season, the way it's written in our regs, you have 2 consecutive days beginning the first Saturday in April, so however the calendar falls. And then our general spring turkey season is 23 consecutive days beginning the Saturday closest to April 15th.
It's 23 days.
23 consecutive days.
Now, would you all propose to close it then totally to?
That's what we propose,
Yeah.
really, for a combination of things, safety and...
Would you all be willing to, tell me if I'm right or wrong. Most turkey hunting is early morning and then maybe before dusk. Is that?
Most of your spring turkey hunters show up, in the dark. They hunt until noon and are usually out of the area. Now, there's some that'll sit out there all day long, but
Would it-
evenings, absolutely, you certainly can. But the majority of turkey hunters usually are out of the woods by noon.
Would it be possible to propose a compromise of just during that time that at noon horseback riding would be allowed from
Absolutely.
from dawn to noon? Then then you're not having that big gap of
Sure,
time,
sure.
and you're serving the turkey hunter in the morning and the horseback rider in the afternoon.
Do you propose they overlap? So if turkey hunters wanted to stay on the property, they could, knowing that they may encounter some horse riders while they're out there?
Well, that's my, not expert turkey hunter, but I do know the range of a shotgun is about 50 feet or better.
When you're talking spring turkey hunting, it's probably less of a safety issue and more of a hunter quality, and that's usually when we're managing WMAs. Our hunters come first on a typical
Sure.
WMA, so we're trying to give them the best experience that we can,
Sure.
and we don't want them working a turkey and then a horse ride right in between the turkey and the hunter, and
But if you could navigate it to where the day was split and you had hunting in the morning till noon or 11, and then after that, then horseback riding was permissible. Rick, you look like you had a comment, so I was just going to turn to you.
Several thoughts, but trying to put them together. That sounds like that'd be tough to try to tell a turkey hunter you can go half a day. And it just seems like that'd be tough. I guess my question is, or my thought is, it would be nice, because I didn't see any of these dates really in this agreement, just to have an idea. You've already thrown out several different hunting events. You said 2 days in November, I think, 2 days in December. Those are gun.
those are firearms,
And
deer.
then a week for muzzleloader loading, I think you said in December.
Yes.
So that's kind of starting to add up. I guess it's like a scheduling event is what I'm.
Yeah, and
And then you're talking in the spring, is it only gun hunting for turkey that you're talking about in the spring of the year?
Yes, you could use archery equipment, but primarily shotgun, yes.
Yeah, and that's typically only for turkey
Turkey, yes.
in the spring of the year.
Correct.
How long was that?
It's 23 consecutive days.
So, it'd be nice to put that down on the calendar and look at it, those dates. Because if they're gonna happen together on the same property, and obviously that's what we're talking about, it would be, how would the various groups wanna try to handle that? I'd like to have their view, because I'm not a turkey hunter.
yeah.
Or bicyclist, but I'm sure, I've been down there, one of the first, calls I got in my first term was to come down and meet with the horseback riding folks, because that property kind of divides me in and out of the districts. And, so I went down and met with them, and it's like you said, they really take care of those trails. And in fact, they carve out days where the horseback riding folks show up. They got the horses, but their intent is to work on the trails. And then they have other days, one day it's a weekend, we're gonna go horseback ride or whatever. So they make a schedule for the driver, and the only way it's gonna work is trying to coordinate these hunting events. They need to work like to protect the hunters and the public, folks on bikes or whatever. Or there are a lot of people that go down there and I can walk on those. I've been down there.
Limited streams, wet weather more so. No lake, no ponds that I'm aware of. JR, are you aware of any ponds? Or there's no ponds, but it's wet weather stream more, and that stream is it Eagle? Lot of Fort.
One question, if you don't mind, I think David might have been alluding to this, or maybe in a personal conversation, but if you don't mind, JR, what kind of activities do you and your team do down there? Anything, any kind of maintenance or?
The road it runs from Skinnersburg area, we mow that occasionally to keep the bushes back or
Does that kind of run through the middle of the property?
runs through the middle of the property.
Rick, you got your mic on.
We also have.
Sorry, thank you.
We haul storm debris down there, just wood debris only, and it rots up. We use it for that, and it's basically all we use it for.
I'm just wondering what kind of time
And it's a big important thing that we have a place to get rid of the wood debris. And every so often, we go down there with the end loader and push it over. It's on a point we push it over toward the holler. It ain't a ugly, obstructive side or anything like that. So
It's kind of up over a hill, and
yes.
there's a flat area up on top of the hill, and
Y'all have any rabbit hunting on the? It sounds.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
or some possum.
but
Thank you, JR.
Alvin,
Yeah, a couple of questions. The horse trails, are they over the whole property? Is there enough area to separate the hunters so that you don't have 23 days at the horseback? People
And we've actually had those discussions. I mean, there is a pretty good divide on this property. Is it Gaines Road, the main road there?
Yes.
And you've got on the, I guess, north and south of Gaines Road, the southern side is where most of the mountain bike trails are, if I'm
the horses
not
on the other
mistaken.
side, though, aren't they?
I think the horses are on the other side. So really the north side is probably where we would have more interest just because of all the mountain bike trails on the south. But I'm not sure that would work with dividing the horse trails based on where they're at.
I think the mountain bike trails start mostly on the Skinnersburg end, which would be the southern end. And the horseback riding is on the south end of Gaines as well, from what I can remember when I was up there with them, and the north side of Gaines. So somewhere down in there south of Gaines is that kind of dividing point. And they explained to me when I was there that the bikers took care of their end and the horseback riding folks, and it looked really good. I mean, it's very obvious. In fact, they showed me maps. They have it all mapped out, and so pretty good little operation going on.
I can't answer the question about being able to. I would need to look at a visual of the actual. The Skullbuster trails are actually, you can look online and see exactly where they're at. The horseback trails have some maps, but I don't know if there's digital access to those right now or not. That's a good question.
The other question I had was the parking areas. I know the county did some limited work on the parking areas.
Right there on Gaines,
Yes.
and then at the end by the church, at the end of Skinnersburg there.
Who would be responsible for maintaining those? If, I don't remember seeing it in the agreement.
Yeah, I don't think it is. Right now those are gravel lots, and
So typically that comes with our responsibilities, maintaining parking areas, signage, things like that, and we wouldn't have a problem helping out with that either. In fact, we would probably want to work on trying to get some more access to the property, so that folks would have easy access.
So one other thing that was brought to me, and this is first time it happened, was probably early in COVID, and we kind of just let that go, and then it's been brought up again about Boy Scouts and being able to camp, and I think in the past, it seems like the court has allowed. I mean, groups have come, and
I've
I think
authorized
yeah.
myself, and JR's helped. We've gone down there and actually mowed off
Little
flat
clearing
area for them, and just trying to accommodate and have it.
Well, I think it's a good thing,
Yeah.
and especially for scout troops in our community. I mean, is that a possibility and a potential that
Certainly
can?
something we could work with. I mean, we
would want to stay out of hunting season.
work around hunting seasons, but
Well, I don't know. Them guys might want to hunt too.
There's youth hunts.
That's what I'm saying.
and there could be a good partnership there as well. I mean, we utilize scouts from time to time on our public areas. Maybe they help with trail maintenance and parking areas, things like that. So it can be a pretty good partnership.
No, that could potentially be a very nice thing.
Yeah.
Is there a way to get, I don't know, planning and zoning, somebody makes a map of the area and kind of show where things.
No, we can give you a map. Yeah, we can give you a map, and I don't know if I can give you a map of the horseback trails, but I can give you a map of Skullbuster. Dr. Sutton and
We've got maps that
yeah.
put a GPS on kind of track them all around,
So you all, so maybe we could work together with Whitley at Planning and Zoning, and maybe have that. Well, she could take their maps and lay it over the actual map.
Be good to have either way.
Yeah. So
And that's something we would want to see as well. So that would be great.
so maybe we could work on doing that.
I think there's a lot of potential with this kind of partnership. I still want to kind of talk about a lot of these details, but because for the folks that use it and for the folks that live in that area, whenever they've contacted me, they're pretty passionate about, what part they're using, horseback riding, bicycling, or just out there. Some guys bow hunting. I've had people come to me, and I've sent them to the judge's office to get permission to go hunt. And so we definitely got to make sure we take care of our citizens first. That property belongs to them at this point. They paid for it. So
And that's the promise of the potential agreement, that
Right.
existing recreational activity.
yeah, and I saw that in here. I say this is very interesting
Yeah.
to me.
We continue, but we get the oversight, expertise, partnership, and management from Fish and Wildlife. And right now, we prohibit gun, we try to, but our friend Dr. Wallace is here. Dr. Wallace. All right, he's back. Right now, bow hunting is permitted, but we tell people that gun hunting is prohibited. But we all know that people go down there and hunt with gun, and we just don't have the manpower or the oversight. You all would add, you've got staff that will then really, manage that area.
Sure.
I think that's the best way to say it. Whereas right now it's not got a lot of oversight.
Well, what I'd like to see is some of those dates. I know they change every year. It's all to do with the weekends and the seasons, but so that we could see how many days we're talking about that there's going to be gun hunting, be it muzzle loading or whatever, and then the turkey season and how you think that should shake out. If we could see those just a number of days.
Sure.
And I believe that, the potential of having, turkey hunting in the early morning through the morning and then horseback riding in the afternoon would be something to consider there. But, that's why we have these work sessions
Right.
and these conversations so we can get input and then work forward and go from there. Anyone else have any comments?
I just have one. When you say bow hunting, are you putting crossbow hunting in there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I thought so.
Yes, sir.
The
Yep.
veterans just has that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Anyone else? Anyone from our Dr. Sutton, would you like to address the court? Yeah. Thank you all.
Absolutely. Thank you all for having us.
Yeah.
We'll hang around.
Yeah.
Questions, and then we're going to have to cut out. We've got
Yeah,
back in
I
front.
knew they put them on the first because they have another meeting to attend.
Y'all bear with me. I'm not a public speaker. I'm more of a listener. But I think we have a gem here that nobody else has. And any of y'all that would like to go down there, we can get a horse or a side-by-side and take you through it and let you see what goes on down there. The ladies grow vegetables at home and sell their canned goods. They bake pies to raise money to buy diesel fuel to mow it. These people love that place. I don't think that if you start having 30 days of gun season of turkey or deer, that it's going to work well, not just for the horse people, but mom and pop from up here in town. They hike our trails too. We do all that for everybody. But when they come down there hiking, they're not going to think, now let's see, is it turkey season today? You'll see a mom and dad and 5 kids hiking down there. And if you had a geographic area, when they get hiking and you get back in the woods, they're not going to know when they cross that line. So I don't think that will work very well. Just don't think I'm a negative person. I'm not. I'm a very positive person. But when I look at it, I think you're all going to have to think long and hard about how you will work it out so that there are mountain bike people on mountain bike trails, but there's people just ride Skullbuster Road on their bike and hike over the whole thing. There's people that fish down there. I don't see how they ever catch anything because it dries up about every other year. But there's so much going on down there. Like I said, Boy Scouts hike down there, and I think it's a gem that I want you to think and at least go down there and look at it before you give up on it. I used to love to ride at Kleber, and I think they allow horses, but nobody rides there because even though there's horses there, there's no place to ride. I used to like to go to the Clay Farm over in Carlisle, Nicholas County. And this spring, I ran into a guy down there. You're out riding, make a little conversation. Where are y'all from? Well, we're from Nicholas County. Oh, well, why don't you ride the Clay Farm? Because it's a whole lot bigger than we are. And got the Licking River, got big water on it. Well, it's just no place to ride. The trails have gotten grown in and all. And so I just don't know for sure that it'll be as easy as y'all. On paper, I think it looks better than it will. But I do encourage you, call me or anybody else that will hook you up with a ride or a side-by-side, and you go through and see what you have that nobody else, I don't think in Kentucky has. With gas prices now, a lot of us we can't afford to go out of state. Indiana, Ohio, Tennessee, departments of, I don't know, the forest or whatever, I don't know that it's Fish and Wildlife, but they do a really good job. In Kentucky, you about got to go out of state now to get to the really good riding, or go to Land Between the Lakes is real nice. But we're kind of caught in a bind with high gas prices and don't feel like the state of Kentucky is really what it could be. Thank you very much. By the way, I want to tell you one thing you have done better than anybody else in the state. Elkhorn Creek, Scott County, you can go to any crossroad across the creek, park your car, get in your canoe or kayak, and away you go. And I think Judge Lusby had a lot to do with that. You go to Franklin County, there's little pull-offs, but you got to be a member, pay a fee, or go to a private place, pay a fee. Scott County, it's for everybody. And I don't know that everybody in Scott County appreciates that because they haven't been to Franklin County or other counties. Thank you very much.
Let me ask you a question. If, my whole goal was to look at the proposal and see if we could have the best of both worlds and not eliminate opportunities, but try to enhance the hunting and still have, good trail riding, good bicycling as well. If we looked at, and I feel confident, you got Gaines Road coming in there and then you come in off Skinnersburg, but on both ends of Gaines, if you had signage, and then on Skinnersburg, those three spots are going to communicate a lot. I would not be, I'm not going to lie to you, the 23 days in the spring of eliminating riding that would bother me. If we could manage morning turkey hunting and then afternoon bicycling and horseback, and we could successfully communicate that to the community and people, that would be, and then, the November 5th, 6th, December 3rd and 4th, could we propose not to have muzzle loading and just keep the 5th and 6th, December 3rd and 4th, those guns on those and shut it down for those for sure. Is that something that we can navigate? And then what you're talking about is you're not really eliminating very much of the horseback riding, but we're still having that hunting.
I think that if you said, put a big orange sign at the ends where the parking lots are and said, deer hunting these 4 days, and put that up ahead of time so people have a chance. Because once you catch your horse and drive for 45 minutes, it's disappointing to get there and find out you can't ride. But if those signs and dates were up, I think that would be a good start. But still, a horseback rider and a deer hunter get along pretty good. It amazes me how well the bike riders, now every now and then somebody get on his horse and will ride on a bike trail, and they say those horse people are doing it. Well, it's that one guy. on the same time, I've been on horse trails and run across a biker. Yeah. Well, I know 99% of the bikers aren't doing that. It's that one guy. But I would guess that a horseback rider meeting a guy with a gun, we're at a disadvantage. So I would think if you kept it to a limited gun season for deer, and you don't have people in there shooting coyotes, groundhogs, rabbit hunting, dove hunting, all that kind of stuff.
And that's not part of the conversation.
Yeah, then you got a chance that it might. And
one thing, I spoke with Roy Cornett, and Roy looked at this draft. One of the things that Roy brought up, and we added it, would be no gun target shooting on the property. That would be reserved for the veterans. And what's going to happen at veterans as well is proposed range there that's going to be very nice for Central Kentucky and our community too. So you still have that target opportunity there on Rogers Gap and that shooting opportunity there, but you could go out to the reservoir property and that would not be an issue, so to speak, where hiking and such and bicycling and horseback riding could coexist there.
I agree, Jeff.
Well, thank you. And then we're still, the bow hunting would still exist as it is now. The bow hunting and they've coexisted.
Get along.
They've gotten
don't
along
have any.
fine.
We've never had a problem with a bow hunter.
I don't see any problem with the bow hunting as it is. So I think going away from this, I think Rick's request is, can we have a hard list of the dates and look at those and then go from there.
The dates themselves will change from year to year. Just like, I think you said 2 days in November, 2 days in December, a month in the spring. Just having those amount of days and approximate what month they fall in, just so we can have something to look at.
So I think you all have a pretty good idea of what's out there. You can go look at it, think about it. And then the other thing I wanted to address a little bit was talk about a purchase down the road. And so here in Scott County, we do a whole lot for our football players or basketball players. This is Kentucky, you know. We got a good place for our dog parks, you know. But for all the horse people, and this is horse country, where do our horse people go? Well, I mean, and I mean, I like that you have dog parks, and I'm glad you have Parks and Rec with all the pavilion and everything. But for those of us that ride horses, our taxes pay for that, but what about what we want to do? And the only reason it worries me that we're going this direction is, for example, I used to rabbit hunt myself all over the Hall Farm, which is Veterans Park now, when Marion Hall owned it. That's the benefit of being a large animal veterinarian. You get your toe on every farm in the county. But that's a real nice place. But now, that's not for horses. That's for hunters. But yet, for 25 years, the reservoir has been for bikes and horses, but we welcome the hunters in. So it seems like to me that cooperation that we're given, we may not be getting back if Fish and Wildlife buys it. So that's just something for you to think about.
And I respect that and appreciate it. Ben, if you'd like to comment on that, and then
Yes, sir. One thing that I heard, and I just want to make sure that everybody's clear. You mentioned rabbit hunting and things like that. We would propose that that would happen as well. You know, rabbit, squirrel, all of the open seasons that you'll see in your guide, because that's how our WMAs operate. So if we were operating off of the season framework at Veterans, that would transition over to the reservoir tract as well. So you may coexist with rabbit hunters, squirrel hunters, probably wouldn't put a dove field or anything like that in. Coyote hunting, things like that would be, unless we stipulated that in the agreement. But I'm saying right now, as it's written, if we were following the regulations of Veterans WMA, all of those things would be open.
Could you send me just a one-pager that outlines all of that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've got the hunting guides there in front of you, and that shows all of our season frameworks, but I'll boil it down to a one-pager for you, and we'll get that back over.
That'd be helpful.
Yep.
And we'll you know, and Ben, do you envision, you know, we talked about if we went through and you all, and we navigated this and it was a good partnership, you know, would you envision anything changing with you all purchasing it? You know, if we could navigate, and my goal would be, because I'm not always going to be here and you're not always going to be there, that it be in writing if there was a purchase in the future that horseback riding, mountain bike riding would continue to, you know, exist as we've outlined. Could that happen?
Yeah, I think we could make that happen. I think the beauty of doing a lease agreement for a couple of years is a good trial run for all of us, you know, to see how this is going to work before we did enter into
because
purchase conversation.
You know, my vote would be, if we couldn't continue that, then my vote would not go in the way of selling it, because I don't want our horseback community or our bicycling community or hiking. You know, the hiking would be fine, but you follow me that I wouldn't want those opportunities to go away.
Absolutely.
And if there's some way that we can navigate where there's a good marriage of both, you know, I think that'd be a good thing to work towards. So.
Right.
Anything else?
And I think with that information that you're going to get us back and the thought that it would just be a trial run, if we do anything, the beginning of it would be a trial run. If we go that path, So then
and on top of that, any of the time that like gun shooting's allowed for any hunting, I'd be curious like when those dates are. Because even though maybe squirrels, rabbits, whatever, it's still a little unnerving to be on a horse and somebody's shooting pretty close. So, just curiosity. My horse jumps.
Dr. Sutton, you're out there. I mean, are there people out there squirrel hunting and
No, there have been people squirrel hunting, and the nice thing about it, when you're in the woods, you hear a shot over there. He's right there. You can know where he either lives there or his car's parked there. And you just call with 911. If somebody goes down there, that's the end of that, and they don't do it.
Please.
But I think any gun hunting, I think y'all are thinking, well, high-powered rifle go that far, but with a .22 rifle or shotgun, they're not going to hit you. Well, they might not hit you, kill you, but still, if they hit your horse or you, or a beagle comes running down the trail, or German short-hair pointers going down the trail and comes up behind 10 horses, you're going to have a stampede. People are going to get hurt. And I think that if you say, their season is right now till then, we can stay home, you know what I mean, go do something else. We might go deer hunting. But the idea that there's Monday, Tuesday's youth hunt, I didn't hear you mention that, but there's a whole lot of hunting goes on in the year. If you look at their website closely, I just don't see how somebody up there on Main Street who's getting ready to go take their kids hiking is going to be aware of what it is before they get down there, and then they're going to say, well, I don't hear anybody shooting, and then they got their kids down there hiking.
So one of the things that we could do is signage, but another thing is we could add a link to our webpage and try to promote times and that kind of stuff. But
it's real simple, cut and dry, you follow me? Because most people in Scott County know that are going to go in the woods in gun season.
Yeah.
I mean, they just know that. I was ready to go up the interstate.
could you give me a call on Tuesday and we talk about getting your all's maps that you have to Whitley, and we'll put all that in along with the Skullbuster, try to put it all overlaid onto one map, and then I'll share that with you all as well.
Sure.
So I appreciate your time. I know y'all got other fish to fry today, and thanks for what you do for Kentucky and Scott County.
Absolutely, we appreciate it.
All right. Thank you all. All right. Thank you all. With that said, I'm going to ask Jeff Mudrack, would you share just a little information, and we'll have John and Harold share about our generator project.
Yes, Judge, Magistrates, I'm very pleased to share with you the document I sent to you yesterday that by email, the updated employee handbook, their final draft we finally got to you. You may not be as excited as I am to give it to you because now you have to do it. But I'm pleased to say, Tag, you're it. And just to remind you, this has been about 8 months of steady work. I mean, it's probably the culmination of 3 years of issues and things we've dealt with, and just where we've made notes of those things. Then it also included a committee that we put together. It worked on this from April through June, and included Dwayne and John Ward and Chris Runyon and Kara Oliver and Kenna Portwood, Josh Hudnall, and of course Cam has had a hand in this too, and he's reviewed it on a couple of occasions. And so that was work that was done for a couple months there. And then, I think probably what I'd like to do is just point out some of the key changes. I gave you a bullet list of those key changes, but if I was going to say these are the more significant changes to the policies, I would say that those were that we replaced the probationary period with an introductory period, because when you complete probation, it gives the impression that you're permanent, but nobody's permanent because we're an at-will employer. We did add an at-will employment policy that's in here too. The disciplinary action policy, that was a very lengthy policy. We boiled that down to a very short document, or for a much shorter policy, because you don't want to handcuff either side. I mean, everything should be based upon pattern and practice and based upon nature and severity, and sometimes you need to take more significant action than the policy would permit, and sometimes you need to take less significant action. So I think that there should be some flexibility there. We added a general safety policy. We added or clarified a return to work and modified duty policy for work-related injuries. a pretty significant change is that we changed the leave sharing program to a sick leave bank policy. So that's another one that was fairly significant. And then the work-related injury and temporary total disability policy was another pretty significant change in policy language. But we added a lot of policies and things, and the things we added were not, they're really just to comply with federal and state law. So it's not like we created some drastic new policy. It was really just trying to clarify what the federal and state laws were on certain things and put that in a very readable term so people can understand what the expectations were. So that's everything I wanted to share. What questions could I answer for you at this time, if you have any?
Well, my comment is thanks to you and everyone else that has been a part of that, and it's been a marathon, I know, and a lot of information to get us compliant. And I feel very confident that we're much better off than we were, in a much more usable document compared to beforehand. So that's my comment. Any questions or comments from anyone else? And, would this be something that you all would like to consider on Friday, or would you like to wait till the Thursday, September meeting?
Yeah, it's a pretty long document. I'd like a little bit more time.
So that's why I wanted to ask. Yeah. So we'll bring it to the Thursday night meeting, if that's okay with you all. And that's why I wanted y'all's input. Anything else? All right, Jim.
I'm also going to share with all the department heads, too, that hasn't seen the document, too, to give them a chance to review it as well.
Well, that's huge
Yeah.
to do as well. But it's not like we recreated, the wheel. It's just fine-tuning and getting us in compliance, and appreciate it. Jeff and Harold, if you all could share your all's work. We started back in the spring and kind of swung and missed, but that's okay. I think we're going to have a better outcome anyway. And I want to say, Harold and Jeff, John, whatever your name is. Thank you all for your work on doing this. And, it's road department, JR's crew, we've not had a generator there, and, they're out in the middle of the night, just like every other first responder. And, if we have an ice storm and we lose power, they're sleeping there. They need power, so that's why it's important there. We've got you working on an EMS station at the Stamping Ground, and then this building as well. So I'll let you all take it from there.
All right. Judge, Magistrates, thank you all. I just want to call out Harold. Harold's been doing the majority of this work. He's been a big part of this. But like the judge says, we started out, put this out for bid for the entire project for all those sites, and we had one bidder, and it came back at $900,000. So we were like, we got to figure something else out, do something different. I think we've had conversations with Rick and Dwayne on. So the route we want to go right now and kind of get your all's approval on is us as the county purchasing the generators, and then once we get those purchased, then we would work with contractors in this area to do the install of the generators. Along with that, what we want to do as well, several of these generators are sized in cooperation with doing some different HVAC conversions at Station 4, Station 5, and the EMS station at Stamping Ground. So we'd like to go ahead and get that work started with an HVAC company to do that work, and that way it would have us ready once we do bid the generators out, get them in here and get them installed. That work would already be done. By doing the HVAC work, it will bring down the size of the generator that's needed at each of those locations. One of the things we've looked at as far as the courthouse goes is the size of generator to run the entire courthouse is going to be a big generator. Harold's been communicating with generator people with Columbia Gas, because Columbia Gas is coming in, and we're kind of at a roadblock as far as there being enough gas to feed the generator, that size of a generator, plus the boilers and all the heating here at the, if all those cut on. Harold will give you more detail on that. But kind of what we looked at for this location, and also that size of the generator is going to require a big footprint outside. I just don't know if there's an area big enough for that. So what we've kind of looked at this location is mainly reducing the size generator, which makes a smaller footprint, and only power the second floor. So basically, the entire second floor would be powered, none of the others would, which would reduce the size of the generator. We've got to get an electrician up here to look in the basement, but the one we have talked to seems to think that the second floor is on its own panel, so it may not be as difficult as we think. But that's kind of where we're at as far as, just trying to, get your all's thoughts and opinions on that, as far as putting these generators out for bid. Before we would do that, like I said, we need to figure out this location first, because when we put them out to bid, we want to do the entire.
So really what we're looking at is we're going to get a couple prices to do the HVAC work.
That's correct.
That comes in, get a couple prices from a couple different contractors for those HVAC location conversions. We're going from electric to gas.
Yes.
We're going to save money by doing that. And then it also, you can get a smaller generator by doing that.
That's correct.
So that's one part. Part two, we'd put bids out for the generators, and we would purchase those ourselves, and then we'd put a bid out for the electrical work. Would the electrical work be? Could they bid on it singular and all, or would that be something we'd do?
My thought was,
or just say we want the whole bang, the whole show.
Yeah, I mean, we could do it either way. I mean, put it out to where they can bid on it individually, plus put it out to where somebody can bid the entire project.
Rick, what do you think, Mr. Electrician? And then Dwayne, what do you think? And then anybody else, not saying that anybody.
I would bid on the whole thing. I think we could get some top stations done.
I don't know that you can. Sometimes you get out.
But you're doing.
Manpower is such an issue for some folks will not bid it because they don't have enough.
So we're not saying that we wouldn't put out a bid where they could bid on all of it, but they would also have an option to bid on the individual job.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but if they bid them all, they still have to do it individually. You have no way of knowing how to break that out.
That's true.
Determine what the low cost is. When you were talking about, which I agree with, the county purchasing the generators, have you got an idea of the number
Harold, I'll
right
let-
now?
Yeah, he's talked with Onan Cummins.
Yeah, Cummins out of Louisville, we've dealt with them. They provide service and generators in our fire stations that do have generators at this point. And they're looking for the 3 fire stations. They're about the same, a 25 kW generator, transfer switch, and the remote enunciator is going to be just a little over $20,000 each. I would anticipate that same or a comparable size generator would work here for what we're looking to do. And then obviously the road department is a much larger device to power that entire campus out there.
How many generators are we talking altogether?
5 altogether.
5 altogether.
5 altogether. 4 of which I would anticipate would be in the 25 kW range, and then the one at the road department is like a
The
250.
Newtown Station, Homestead, EMS Station, Stamping Ground, the road department, and the courthouse.
You want to try to do this within 6 months, or?
Well, I'll give you information on that too.
The lead time for delivery of a generator at this point is 67 weeks.
Say that again, Harold.
67 weeks.
A year.
Yeah. Plus. And, there's nothing we can do about that. It's just the market.
We can put it out to bid and see who bids on it and what their lead times are, but that's kind of what we got from Cummins.
Sourcewell, any generator options out of Sourcewell?
We can check on that.
Never looked. We looked at the Kentucky state contracts, and once you get above a small portable generator, they do not issue contracts for those.
There could be one with national list.
Yeah. So let's look on that source book for the generators too, but
How big did you say for the road department?
That is a 250 kW, I believe. You got it in there? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
how big? Like how big's the footprint on that?
I don't think we want to be.
But that's gas too, though, right?
Natural gas.
Because it's right there for JR and them.
That's probably the size I've got, like Great Crossing, probably.
Yeah, like a 26-foot box truck, somewhere in there.
The, now, ones that converted to gas, is gas already at those locations?
They would be propane, LP.
Oh, perfect.
They would
So-
also, those three would be propane.
At Station 4, propane is there. 5 is not. We'd have to get a tank there. EMS station, has it got a propane tank
No.
there? So we'd have to get a tank there.
Okay. So it's
What we thought about
all the
this,
gas is already there.
yeah, what we thought about this location is a diesel tank
Yeah.
under, yeah.
So it sounds like the propane's the cheapest generator than a diesel.
I don't know that it's cheaper, but it is a little bit less headache with maintaining the diesel fuel. The diesel fuel generator we have at Station 2 in Sadieville is a diesel power generator. In a part of the service agreement is we test the fuel, and I anticipate there's going to come a day where they're going to tell us we've got basically to dispose of a tank of fuel and freshen it, if you will.
Every
because
time
it
they
just
come
doesn't
and
have much.
maintain it, they'll take a sample.
How often do you
Here.
It is run daily, weekly, does a weekly self-check, and then obviously when it's needed, but no, not near enough to use a lot of fuel.
Would it be beneficial if we like once? I mean, I don't know how many gallons it is, but would it be beneficial if you just ran it and then put in fresh?
I don't know how we would do that.
You don't have to. All right.
On our diesel, I mean, we check them every year, keep it full.
Okay.
They've been running for us for 20, 30 years.
Because, and that's what we look, with this location here, I mean, that generator is going to have to sit right down there in this corner. But, because that in the basement is where all your electrical panels are, so.
So the diesel footprint would have to go on this side,
More than likely.
Yes.
not this side.
Right. Because of where your electrical room is in the basement.
It may
JR, do
be.
you think we could carve out, where you get a little landscaping in that little inset?
I think so.
It may be we go to a smaller generator. It may fit in the enclosure by the cooling tower, but when we were looking for a full service, it was not going to fit in this corner. So we may be able to get it in that spot there.
But the reason the natural gas, Harold shared that we just don't have enough flow. The older lines up here don't provide enough flow to 100% say that they could power the boilers and the generator. So if we're not 100%, it's not a really good emergency plan.
Yeah, because he'd been back and forth with Columbia Gas and the generator people. At one point they said it would, and then they backed up and was like, all those are calling for, the most at one time. There could be a potential for it.
Ice storm in the middle of February.
On the worst day where the natural gas demand in this area is the most, we may not have enough to start the generator, and that's just not a plausible option.
No. So
Because we're not going to need it on a good day.
no. What questions?
If you were talking about just doing the second floor, is the HVA system zoned where you can just do that floor? I mean, it is all one system.
Each one's got separate boxes.
Yeah, there's separate boxes. I don't believe we could power the air conditioning. That cooling tower would have been locked out with the 125 kW generator. The heat is a gas boiler, so now you're looking at a lesser amount of electricity to circulate the heat within the building. So,
In the second,
Boiler would run the whole, you got a boiler, you got heat.
Right.
At first, second, third floor.
I would think.
I mean, 'cause it's not,
I'll defer.
it should, if you got the boiler, you've got.
could we ask Mullis that?
I just don't know. I'm sure it takes, does it take electricity to do any kind of the control function?
The fans have to be.
The fans.
The fans
That's
have
the
to
only
be.
thing I would.
Well, you already said your biggest load is the chiller, the cooling tower outside,
Yeah. but
and the chiller in the basement. So, but that's a summertime use. not.
We have to open the windows, we open the windows.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
driving
but
at.
if it's cold.
So the
I think-
boiler would take a lot less power because it's gas fired.
Exactly.
So it's mainly fans and a little ignition power, which is nothing, to keep the gas burning. So
We'll check on that. You all, I really appreciate your work and your efforts, and a lot of good things going on. The pinning ceremony was very nice, and a lot of people proud of the work they've done and promotions, and they're working on the Sourcewell specs for the two engines. Engine and ladder, and so we got a lot of balls in the air, a lot of things going, but everything to support our services, and then I can't stop. We won AFG grant, and I need to share this narrative that John shared. The AFG grant that we applied for. Almost a $200,000 project. I think it's $196,000, but that's going to install the exhaust systems for all the vehicles at all the stations. Correct, John?
That's correct.
Would you like to add to that?
All of our stations, including the maintenance shop out there at Station 1, will have a two hookup system in there.
So, the health and safety of our staff will be greatly enhanced, and we felt like this was important. And then your all's commitment to the new self-contained breathing apparatus that we've gotten in, and they're all on duty right now, aren't they?
They are, yes.
And in service, and I'm really proud of the work that we're doing to support that stuff. And the AFG grant. I think our match was only like
17,000.
Is it? Yeah. So I knew it was right below 20.
Yeah.
So a 17,000 commitment from us for a $200,000 project is a win-win. So I'm proud of that.
And I did include that match in our current operating budget in the special projects line item. I was anticipating hopefully getting this, so want to make sure we had money, our match there, if we were awarded this grant. But I also want to thank Seth Johnson. He did a lot of this work along with Michelle as well. I mean, it's a team effort, and we were successful on it. And extremely happy.
No. Keep swinging that bat. You're gonna hit something. and we've been blessed. 3.1 NTIA, and I'm gonna give you all an update on that here. 1.6, they sent us paperwork to fill out from the Department of Transportation for the Legacy Trail to get that thing, the bidding and the procurement started, and then this, and there's we've had a couple of the FEMA grant for the house.
Right.
Anything else, Mike, there along that line?
We've got several balls in the air.
Yeah.
Nothing that's coming back yet.
Yeah. So, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Just real quick to follow up on the generator thing, wouldn't we, if this building is like the headache of it all, I mean, you feel like you don't have, I would say we'd be willing to go ahead and follow the other ones because they're kind of cut and dry.
Here's the
Figure this one out.
biggest thing on this one is it's our telecommunications.
Yeah.
Like everything comes back here, and everything's going to, I'll give you all an update on that here in a second too. Everything's going to be backed up to Madison County, but it comes through here.
I think we could, before we were, prepared to take this and put it out for bid, get your all's approval to bid it, we can have this figured out.
Right.
That's my goal, is have this figured out before then.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just, as far as priorities, it's what
Yeah.
needs to be, and they're cut and dry.
Right.
Yeah. And if y'all, I understand what you're saying, it makes sense. If there's still some questions, to go ahead and get the other generators in the queue, because there's no question we need those.
So, still backing up the HVAC.
the HVAC part of this is really separate. It could be done now.
No, and I've asked them to go ahead and get prices, and if those are below 30,000, then of course, we'll bring it to you to approve the purchase, but we'll get just a couple bids from local companies, I think, to do that work.
Yeah, well, and I think, looking at it from that point, the smaller you can make it, it allows a smaller guy to take a shot at it, and,
Right.
and which is great in my view if they can do the work.
Because, and my thought would be too, have companies come in and bid each building. That way we could do a separate PO for the Newtown station, the Homestead station, EMS. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
that way it gives people an opportunity to, may not be the same one does them all. It just
Should get you more bids. I mean, it should.
yeah.
That
But-
sound good?
Sure, but what's sticking in my mind is that year and something before the generators would even be available, and that means you have to go ahead and order them.
Yes.
Because they're not,
Right.
just because you called and said you're looking at it, they're not getting ready to make one for you.
Yeah.
We'd put a bid out and then purchase them now out of this year's budget. So,
Yeah, and then, so that's going to give you time anyhow on the generator part, because you're not going to want to do the electrical work until that thing's
That's right.
ready to come. And,
Yeah.
but going ahead and doing the HVAC conversion
Yeah, that's
from
what-
electricity to LP,
Total separate issue, it
Yeah.
can be done now if
and
you're
that's
ready.
that's the plan to go ahead and move forward with
Yeah.
that.
That's why we wanted to update you all and get your thoughts and opinions, but we're ready to move forward with the HVAC stuff right now, if that's okay with you all.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Thank you all.
So once you get a couple prices, and for each station, or if somebody wants to say, hey, I'll do them all for this, then, I'd like to bring it back and just get their approval to do the work.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Now, let's talk about a broadband. Charter Spectrum is like sitting ready to go forward, but because of the $3.1 million grant that we received, we are required to do this tribal lands notification. And it's a 30 plus a 15-day period. And there was a ton of work that Heather Mills had to do to submit to get that clock running. The clock just started September 1. Am I happy about it? No. Is it anybody's fault? No. But it's $3.1 million that's not coming out of our general fund. Now, the other piece of that is the State Historic Preservation Office also has to have a consultation. We have done all of that. All of that's been submitted. There's a clock tick, like they're gonna get that back to us and hopefully give us a pass. But they've said, well, we're not in the staffing, and like there's a backlog there. It's bureaucracy at its best. But you all know what I know. It is part of the process, and we're kind of, I've learned some things that I didn't know, that came with that $3.1 million that we, of course, we're better off taking it and waiting and having to wait a little extra time, but it is the reality. And we have not survived if we had not had Heather Mills and CTC, because she is taking care of all of this for us. And those funds, we're paying her out of, there was grant funds in the grant that pays for her work, for the consultation. So that's not, we're blessed to have that. So you all know what I know. Are there any questions about that? And Spectrum is ready to go, and they've got home. They can't do anything else because we potentially could lose the $3.1 million, and we don't want to do that. But it's a requirement. There's no getting around it, and it's no use in jeopardizing it.
But they've basically gotten all their pole leasing, all of that worked out.
Almost all, they've got pole permitting, like it's ongoing. Now, here's what they tell me. They've got to ask for extensions on the pole permits. but they think that that won't be a problem. So they've gotten the permits. There's a time period that, and you don't want to have to go back and resubmit a pole permit. So it is what it is. I'm as anxious as anyone because I'm still just using my phone. Kelly is my neighbor, and Kelly's, I'm sure, is as anxious as I am, and the other 5,000 houses. JR, Stacy, there's a variety of us. So, it is what it is, but, it's still the 3.1, and not having to use those general fund dollars or ARPA dollars. I think we're being good stewards of tax dollars. So, that's the reality there. And I wish that they were already swinging and hanging fiber. Now, I want to mention something that JR and I have been watching, and JR, you want to step up and maybe we've been watching a brick facade on the wall at the museum. There was a
couple of years.
Yeah, you've been watching it for a couple of years.
Yes,
but there's a wall on the back part that was an addition, wasn't it? And we had Pogue engineers, because it looked like it had moved a little bit in the last month or so. So we had Pogue engineers, a Scott County resident, Mr. Scott, lives out in Belvedere. He came by and evaluated what was going on, went inside, outside, has looked, and what he believes is that facade is just sitting on the outside of that poured wall, and it started to pull away from that poured wall. He is drawing up plans to give to JR for shoring, and there'll be 3 areas that we shore up and essentially, for short term, protect the wall from falling.
Get it stabilized.
Yep. And then they'll do a demo plan, and then hopefully we can demo that and then make a decision on what to put back up there. Don't believe that the structure is in danger. It's just this facade of brick that's on the outside. You want to add anything?
No, I think us stabilizing it, once he gets our drawings and what we need to use, will make it a whole lot safer and keep us from picking up a bunch of brick in the street if anything was to happen. Or
the city blocked the city blocked the sidewalk and put up sidewalk closed.
We're just going to make it a little safer with the stabilizing.
Yeah. So I think we're in good hands. And he's doing all the work on our Justice Center as well, so very involved. JR, you got anything else you want to share with the court?
Just a quick thought on the discussion with the reservoir property. If we can get this worked out, I think it would be a wonderful thing to do. I've dealt with the reservoir for 20 plus years and see what all goes down there. If you could get the horseback riders, the hunters, mountain bikers, hikers to coexist with each other, I think it'd be wonderful the more people that uses that. And then there's another group, it's called ATV riders. It's been Lieutenant Nettles. We have to drive 75 miles to ride. I just had to tell you that.
JR, thank you. I don't have...
That's right.
Have you not got new shirts yet?
Not yet.
Well, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
No, and we're glad you're here today, and really congrats to all the staff. A lot of change going on down there as well. Anything else from anyone?
I've got a question on the internet. But maybe I don't understand it correctly, but like if we don't get that grant, $3 million. They come back.
No, we've got the grant.
The grant's there.
The grant's there.
So
all we're doing is jumping through a hoop of tribal notification and state historic preservation notification.
So potentially, if we don't get that passed, as you said, and that can shut the whole thing down, or there's a way around it?
No, it'll happen. It's just checking the boxes. Like now, we had we had to apply for an extension on the grant because of you have so many days to get all this environmental stuff done. So we applied for an extension. We did it in the timeline. We'll get the extension. That's not an issue. The money's not an issue.
Okay, right, just want to make sure there's no way that we could say, let's go ahead and move forward, and if we don't get the grant money for some reason,
No.
so we just pay out of general budget. That's not the case.
No.
We're not allowed to do anything.
No, we're not allowed. It's just checking the boxes. We're going to get the money. We've got the money. We're just checking their boxes.
Okay.
And I think Dwayne had to do a little bit of this at Scott County High School. And in this, I don't think it's going to cost a whole lot because they've told me they've procured a lot of the equipment that they need. I'm just losing time is what we're losing, and people not having connection. But that is what it is. Now, I want to mention and want to give a shout out to Mike Hennigan. I don't think people know Mike is our EMA director, but Mike has voluntarily helped me and Jeff. The Avaya phone project that we've had has been a nightmare. Getting all the phones ported over from AT&T and other carriers to this voice over IP system, and it has been. I don't want to curse, but we finally got all the numbers ported over, so everybody is under one umbrella. And Avaya is on a state contract, highly recommended, but some of it AT&T had, dragging their feet on porting and making very challenging. But I just wanted to recognize Mike's efforts because he has just stepped in and helped tremendously, programming phones, programming all the call routes, and he's just done this to help. So I wanted you all to know how much of a help he's been, and we would have not been able to get this done without Mike. So Mike, thank you, and I hope you continue to help. but we're really almost to where we're almost there. It's just got some tweaks, and there's some things that have to happen at the fire department that we're going to hopefully meet with next week on some drops, and then 3 drops down here in the clerk's office. But the capability of the voice over IP is very, you can do. I can answer my office phone from the cell phone if I want to just push a button and it'll go. And then you can answer your phones off the computer if you have a microphone. You can do video meetings. There's so many things that can be done. So very positive, and an overall cost savings once we get there. So, Mike, thank you. Appreciate you very, very much. Anything else from anybody?
Judge, a little funny. I'm glad you clarified that. I was in renewing my car tags last month, a couple weeks ago, and I doubt Mike even saw me, but he was in there messing around with the phones, and I thought, is he changing job titles? And then I go to the PVA's office, and they're talking about him because he's been up there, and I go, I better call somebody, but you've clarified it.
No. No, we wouldn't have made it. So, more than that. Well, if that's no one else has any other business, I wish everyone a relaxing, no drama-filled Labor Day weekend. And I'm going to push the no drama button on the county. And then we've got, next Thursday is the chili cook-off and the Festival of the Horse. And I'm sure our law enforcement and EMA staff and EMS staff and fire, everybody else, that'll be a busy weekend. So we appreciate you all. Thank you, and have a good day.